On Christmas Eve, Harry and a group of friends came up with a new game. They would pretend to be broke for half a month and see how their loved ones would treat them. They understand that those who remain by their side are not easily fooled. Therefore, in order to put on a convincing performance, they will work together to create an elaborate scheme. They used the simplest method to decide who would go bankrupt. They placed a wine bottle on the ground and spun it vigorously. The bottle's opening pointed toward Harry. But he, who had been so confident, ended up losing out to the person he trusted most. On Christmas Eve, Harry, wandering the streets, made a phone call. "Daisy, I have nowhere to go. Can you take me in?" When I got the call, the last dish of Christmas Eve dinner had just been served. Although it was just Lily and me in this small house, this year's Christmas Eve dinner was still very sumptuous. Lily was playing with my phone, but when I was about to call her to eat, she ran excitedly to me. "Mom. Dad said he has no money and wants to eat. Can we let him come over?" "No money?" I thought it was a scammer calling, and I was about to pick up the phone and hang up, but then I saw the name on the screen. Harry, a man who had disappeared from my life for a long time, is now my husband. Our parents were old friends, and when my parents had an accident and my uncles took most of our property, I married him. But in reality, I was just a tool to make his parents happy. We are only husband and wife when Harry has to return to his parents' home thousands of miles away. The rest of the time, he is with his true love, Flora. I don't mind acting with him. It's only a few days of discomfort, and I can earn enough to support Lily and myself for half a year. From a rational perspective, this is truly one of the best jobs in the world. There are only two possibilities that could make Harry, a man of great wealth, say that he has no money. The first is that he deliberately came to embarrass me to make Flora happy. The second is that he is bankrupt. Based on what I know about him, I firmly believe it's the first option. I don't want him to come, especially on such an important day. But just as I was about to refuse, I looked down and saw Lily's eyes. She wanted to see her father. She was too young to understand the love and hatred between adults. All she knew was that the last time she saw her father was 6 months ago at a family dinner, when he was in a hurry. Unlike me, Lily really loved her dad. Her memories of him are still stuck in the happy days at the amusement park and the dazzling fireworks on summer nights. The person on the phone didn't say anything either, remaining silent. It was a prank, and although it was embarrassing, at least Lily would have the money to go to a better school. "Come over. We're home now. Just go straight up to the 3rd floor when you get here. I won't wait for you. If you want to eat, hurry up and go yourself." Harry knocked on my door in the last few seconds. Even though he was now wearing cheap clothes that generated static electricity with every movement, it couldn't hide the disgusting arrogance that came from his long time in a position of power. As soon as he walked in, he frowned unconsciously. "How could you let Lily live in a place like this? It still has that arrogant vibe." "I left home penniless, with a daughter who depended on me. To support us, I humbled myself and looked for many jobs. At first, I could only do part-time jobs and save money little by little. Back then, I would cry every night while carrying Lily on my back. I don't understand why Daisy, who had lived a life of luxury since childhood, would humbly beg someone for a job that pays only 100 yuan for a night's work on her 26th birthday. Later, relying on the experience I had accumulated before marrying Harry, I wrote many articles, almost like a headless fly, constantly writing, constantly being rejected, and constantly continuing. Later, our life finally improved a bit, and I was able to afford to move Lily into this house that Harry considered rundown and small. During this time, Harry didn't even give me a penny. After bending down to tie a red scarf around Lily's neck, I coaxed her into the room to sleep. Just as I was about to lose my temper, her little head popped out again. "Daddy, you have to spend Christmas with Lily tomorrow too." Finally, Lily fell asleep, and my smile instantly disappeared. I threw the chipped bowls and chopsticks in front of Harry. The table was covered with cold leftovers. "This place? Harry, this is the best life I can give Lily. I don't want some people who look down on us when we're doing well, but when we fall on hard times, they can't even afford a meal. Hearing the aggressive tone of my words, Harry instinctively wanted to retort. But the next second, he seemed to remember his current status. He was nothing more than a bankrupt vagrant, no longer the ambitious Harry CEO of yesteryear. He picked up the bowl and chopsticks in front of him awkwardly and ate the dishes silently with a bowl of hot rice. Halfway through his meal, he finally spoke. "That's not what I meant. I just don't understand why you would choose to live in such an old, small house instead of that luxurious mansion." I looked up and took a good look at the man in front of me. He didn't seem to be pretending. "A house? What house?" If I really had a house, Lily wouldn't have been kicked out of her home that night and had to knock on the door of a shelter in the middle of the night to avoid freezing to death. We stayed at the shelter for a few days, and I sold the last 2 pieces of jewelry my parents had left me, which I had hidden away, to finally have the courage to leave that place. Harry's brows furrowed tightly, as if he couldn't quite understand what I was saying. "Didn't you say you wanted to leave back then? And when you left, I even had Flora transfer $5 million to your card for living expenses, and I had her transfer the house to your name as well." Upon hearing this, I denied it vehemently. "Harry, don't think that just because you're broke, you can act like a mad dog and bite everyone. If you can investigate, go ahead. If you find that I took what you said, then I'll die a miserable death." Harry stared at me intently, and I didn't say a word. Only when the fireworks exploded outside the window did it seem a little like the us of the past who used to argue for the sake of arguing. He and I were once childhood sweethearts in a storybook. Our grandparents were old friends who had traveled together in search of fortune. This relationship continued into our parents' generation, and they were good friends. By the time I came along, my family had begun to decline, and power was scattered. The Harry family was also in crisis and unable to offer any help. At that time, the only thing keeping the 2 families together was my parents. It was around that time that I met Harry. Harry's parents liked me very much, and my parents were also happy to see this, so during that period, while the adults were busy working, I would follow Harry around every day. At that time, he regarded me as his favorite little sister. He would use his limited New Year's money to buy me candy and would fight off those who bullied me, even if it meant getting hurt. He would make me small, inexpensive things with his own hands, even if it meant cutting his hands until they were covered in wounds. Until my parents passed away unexpectedly, when faced with my uncles who were like hyenas, he shielded me behind him, saying that I was his wife and that bullying me was equivalent to insulting him. At that moment, I thought that he must love me. Later, when his parents arrived, he stubbornly held my hand and stood in front of his uncle and aunt, silently expressing his feelings. So that day, a hairpin was pinned to my head. It was their family heirloom, originally worn by his mother, until she took it off herself and let her son pin it on my head. After that day, I officially moved in as Harry's fiancée. With them protecting me, no one dared to say anything about us. So Harry and I went to the same university, and on graduation day, on the sports field, in front of everyone, Harry, who loved me, proposed to me. Those few years were like an endless dream, immersing me in a state of blissful happiness that made me believe I would be happy for the rest of my life. I don't know if Harry had any other intentions at the time, but I only know that for me back then, no matter what Harry asked me for, I would give it to him. Even on the day I came of age, Harry's parents gave me a 15% stake in the company. The night before my wedding, I found him and told him, "Harry, after today, I will be your bride. The company shares are useless to me, but I know they are very valuable to you. After we get married, let's transfer all the shares to your name." At that time, I didn't realize that by thinking only of him, I was ruining his parents' plans. They had originally given me shares and let Harry start from the bottom, which would have allowed him to establish his reputation while maintaining our position in the group. After I transferred my shares to Harry, my parents quickly found out about it. They came to me and told me they would use other methods to restrict Harry. But I talked them out of it. I trust the years we've spent together, and I don't believe he married me for anything other than love, or rather, for the sake of his promising future. It must be said that Harry is a capable person. After acquiring those shares, he forged ahead and successfully gained a voice in the group. This was 10 years earlier than his parents had expected. Young and promising, full of vigor and ambition, 10 years is more than enough time to create countless troubles. More and more people who want something for nothing began to approach him. His love for me could stop them once or twice, but not 100 or 1,000 times. On the day Lily was born, I found out that he had been having an affair with a junior employee in the marketing department. Her name was Flora. She was 1 year older than me and a senior at our university. After graduation, she joined the company. When she joined the company, it happened to be around the time of my wedding to Harry. So, while I was pregnant, they started seeing each other. There was no way to hide this. My mother-in-law made her position clear right away: Flora would never be accepted by them, nor would she ever set foot in our home. Although Harry had already gained control of most of the group's businesses, he was still very wary of his parents. So, after a big argument with them, he came to me with a plan. In front of his parents, he pretended that he had broken up with Flora, and when he needed to see them, I had to play the role of his loving wife. Other than that, he would divorce me, and I would receive all the benefits of being his wife. When we divorced, he wanted custody of Lily. But Lily is the daughter I gave birth to after nearly dying. I know that if Lily stays with him, she might listen to Flora and treat my daughter badly. So that day, I cut my wrist in front of him and threatened that Lily's custody must remain in my hands. Divorce was acceptable, but Lily's custody was the only condition under which he could divorce me. At first, Harry didn't believe I could go through with it, but when I cut my wrist again, he started to panic. He knew that if I died because of this, Flora would not only be barred from entering his family's home, but her own parents would secretly dispose of her in a fit of rage. In their family, there was no typical father-son bond. Their relationship had already soured long before I handed over my shares to Harry, transforming from that of relatives into that of rivals plotting against one another. Such a change stems entirely from my ignorance. I do not want to ruin my relationship with my parents in their old age because of my own actions and end up estranged from my only son. I agreed to his plan. But in exchange, every time I accompanied him in front of my parents, he had to pay me an appearance fee. 5,000 yuan each time, and whether I showed up or not depended on my mood. $5,000 was nothing to him. His anger stemmed from my insult. As the high and mighty president, when had he ever begged someone else like that? Besides, even if he tries his best to avoid going back to his parents' house, I have to appear in front of them at least once a year. This means that he has to come and beg me humbly every year. When Harry heard this condition, his expression changed several times, and finally, only anger remained. "Daisy, what do you mean? After all these years, you don't have any feelings for me at all? Fine, if that's the case, I won't give you a single penny. I'll wait for the day you come begging me." I mocked him. Feelings? Why don't you ask yourself, if you have feelings, what made Flora appear? Don't tell me that someone tied you up and Flora forced you to love her, and you fell in love with her uncontrollably. Even a dog wouldn't believe that. Harry's face twitched a few times, but he didn't say a word. He just stood up and walked out of the room. As he left, he slammed the door shut. He kept his word. In the 4 years since I left him, I haven't seen a single penny of what he called divorce compensation. After that day, I left, and in the 4 years that followed, I only saw him 4 times. He didn't know where we lived, so every time we met, I would take Lily to the mall and have him send someone to pick us up. Although I do earn $50,000 a year, which isn't exactly a pittance, Lily is still young and there are many expenses to cover, so I can only supplement our income by occasionally writing articles. By living frugally, we manage to get by, but it's not easy. Thinking about what had happened over the years, Harry rubbed his temples in frustration. I was just venting at the time. After I got back to the office that day, I had my secretary, Camila, transfer the compensation I promised you. He looked around at the surroundings. Although he could tell that a lot of effort had been put into it, it couldn't hide the fact that they were struggling financially. Lily is my daughter after all. How could I let her live like this? I interrupted him. But unfortunately, that's exactly what you did. Without thinking, he dialed Camilla's secretary's number. Camilla, Harry's secretary, had been by his side for many years. Even though Harry believed he was bankrupt, she immediately answered the call. Camilla, 6 years ago, I asked you to give Daisy $5 million and a house. Did you personally deliver it to her? 5 million? If that money really ended up in my hands, Lily wouldn't have had to suffer with me all these years. Camilla, the secretary, paused for a moment before speaking. Mr. Harry, I have signed the transfer documents on your behalf. Your assistant will handle the specific procedures. As for the next steps, you will need to consult Miss Flora. I know that the assistant who was with Harry at that time was Flora. Thinking of that name again, I felt a surge of anger I couldn't suppress. Flora, it was her again. She already had enough stuff, but she still felt it wasn't enough and wanted to touch my things. Harry and I sat quietly, and after hanging up the phone, Harry fell silent. Just as the atmosphere was becoming tense, Lily came up to me holding a small plate. Mom, Dad, here are some fruits. I washed them for us in the kitchen. Harry kept staring at his phone. I knew he was thinking about Flora. Over the past few years, because he had to go back to my parents' house with me the next day, he would use all kinds of ways to coax Flora on Christmas Eve. Lily looked at Harry expectantly, but couldn't help turning her head and coughing a few times. She wasn't in good health because she was born prematurely. When I was 6 or 7 months pregnant, Flora had already started secretly posting photos of herself with Harry in different places. At first, only a hand or other insignificant things appeared in the corner. But soon, she became bolder. When I was 9 months pregnant, I saw a video of her being intimate with Harry. I was already in a bad emotional state at the time, and seeing the video made me so angry that I went into premature labor. In the delivery room, I almost didn't make it out alive. That day, Harry yelled at Flora for the first time, but before he could say anything, Flora's tears stopped him. Harry, I just don't want to live in darkness. I want to be with you in the light. While they were being all lovey-dovey, I woke up from my unconsciousness and listened to their sweet nothings in the darkness, feeling even more disgusted. He had always treated me as Flora's shield. Between him and me, there was nothing left but the purest monetary transaction. After he finished eating, I kicked him out the door. You're bankrupt, so you probably won't have money for the appearance fee tomorrow. You'll have to go wherever you need to go. Harry blocked the door with his foot. But I have nowhere to go. I stepped hard on his foot, and Harry instinctively pulled his foot back. The door slammed shut in front of him. It's not my fault. What about Flora? Don't you love her the most? Why don't you go after her? Harry stood there for a long time, staring at the tightly closed door. The motion-activated lights in the hallway flickered on and off, and eventually, he was left alone in the darkness. In truth, he had already looked for Flora. As soon as the game started, Harry rushed to Flora's house. He thought to himself that he had been so good to her over the years, and whatever Flora wanted, he would double it and deliver it to her at the drop of a hat. Such kindness is enough to melt the ice in one's heart. Now that she has heard of his misfortune, Flora has no reason to ignore him. Even on the way to Flora's house, he was still worried that Flora would be so upset upon hearing about his ordeal that she would panic and hurt herself. He made up his mind that as long as Flora clearly indicated that she would help him and was willing to sell a small portion of the gifts he had given her to serve as capital for his comeback, he would give her twice as much in return. From the very beginning, he had complete control over the game and could stop it at any time. However, what seemed like an incredibly simple test to Harry was a piece of cake for Flora, who gave herself away the moment she saw him. When Flora saw Harry standing at her door wearing cheap clothes, she couldn't hide the contempt on her face. She blocked Harry at the door, her phone screen lit up, showing the group chat with him and his friends. Harry's parents were considered heroes back in the day, so how did they end up with Harry? He's almost ruined the family fortune. Who says otherwise? I just heard that his parents sold off their remaining assets at a bargain price and fled abroad. Harry is nothing but a stray dog now. Suddenly, a new message popped up on the screen. Wait, isn't Harry's girlfriend here too? Maybe we should let Harry know. The next second, a notification appeared on the screen indicating that Flora had been removed from the group chat. She didn't even consider whether Harry had prepared a twist for her. After spending so many years with Harry, Flora had long since come to see him as nothing more than a mindless ATM that she could manipulate at will. Now that the ATM won't spit out any money, there's no point in staying by his side. Rather than betting money on Harry's comeback, it's better to take a gamble myself and pocket the big money for my own peace of mind. Facing Harry's request, Flora snorted. Mr. Harry, why should I help you? Am I your wife? Did we get married? Her words rang in Harry's ears like thunder. After a long time, he finally spoke in a trembling voice. Flora, weren't we planning to get married next? Have you forgotten all the good things I did for you? Seeing the pathetic look on his face, Flora walked up to him and sarcastically slapped him on the face. President Harry, those were gifts you gave me during our relationship. It was mutual, so don't use them to play on my emotions. Not to mention, a man who would abandon his wife and children without hesitation for a mistress, whose wife nearly died in childbirth, yet had the audacity to engage in intimate behavior with another woman in the room next door, and now has even gone bankrupt. How am I supposed to know what kind of terrible days await me if I stay by your side? Looking at Harry, whose eyes were bloodshot and seemed ready to tear her apart, Flora covered her mouth and let out a soft laugh before dialing the security phone. Security arrived quickly, simply because the apartment complex where Flora lived was one he had carefully selected after much consideration. The area was heavily guarded, and he had chosen it specifically to ensure Flora's safety. When Harry was forcibly dragged out by security, he realized how foolish he had been. Even as he was thrown onto the street by security, Harry could still hear Flora's words echoing in his mind. Harry, you really think you're so charming that any woman would fall in love with you? To get close to you, I've been researching everything about you since college, all your hobbies. How could anyone be the perfect lover? So-called perfection is just a performance. Late at night, Harry sat motionless on a bench by the roadside for a long time before finally dialing a number. Soon, several sports cars pulled up in front of him, and a group of young men dressed in stylish attire approached him with smiles on their faces. How's it going, Harry? Your sister-in-law isn't someone who can pass this test easily. What should we get her this time? We'll do our best to help you prepare. They laughed, but when they saw Harry's expression, they quickly fell silent. After staring at each other for a few seconds, one of them hesitantly spoke up. Harry, is something wrong? If you need any help, just let us know. We'll do our best. Harry turned his head to look at the old building behind him. Let's go back. The game is over. In this city, I have no relatives other than Lily, so I don't have to get up early. I just let Lily wake up and have breakfast, and then I plan to take her downstairs for a walk. When I opened the door, it seemed as if something heavy was blocking it, and as soon as I opened it, it fell toward the room. When I realized what it was, I grabbed the door with one hand to hold it shut. Lily opened the door, and Harry, who was sleeping soundly outside, had large bags piled up beside him. I immediately understood his intention, but before I could say anything, Lily had already rushed out the door and stood beside Harry. Dad, are you here to spend Christmas with me? Can we go take pictures today? I want a family photo. My classmates all say I'm a kid without a dad. I want to take a picture to show them that not only do I have a dad, but my dad is also tall and handsome. I don't want to have anything to do with Harry anymore, but Lily really misses her dad so much that I had no choice but to let Harry take her out to play all day. In the photo studio, the photographer looked at us with a wry smile. Madam, why don't you move closer to the gentleman and smile a little more? Otherwise, this photo will look really. On this day, Harry tried to talk to me many times, but I didn't say a word to him. Listening to the photographer in front of me, I tugged at the corner of my mouth, about to say something, but when I looked down, I saw Lily's eyes. I knew she really wanted that photo. Taking a deep breath, I forced a smile, though it was a little stiff, but it was still better than before. On the way home, Lily held the small photo frame tightly in her hands. In the frame, the two adults looked as if they were each lost in their own thoughts, while the little girl, holding her parents' hands, smiled brightly. After finally getting Lily to sleep, Harry looked at me a little awkwardly. It was just like when we first met. Can Lily go with me to see my parents tomorrow? We need to go and sort out that apartment. I didn't want to be with him, let alone alone. But Harry's parents were good to Lily, and besides, that house was mine, and I was determined to get it back. Early the next morning, a luxury car pulled up outside my house, and Lily hopped into the back seat with ease. The driver was Harry's friend, whom Lily had met a few times before and considered an acquaintance. After seeing Lily off, another car arrived. Harry was about to open the door for me, but he saw me walking toward the bus stop not far away. His eyes darkened for a moment, but in the next instant, he closed the car door and quickly followed behind me. On the bus, I sat in the corner seat and watched Harry stand helplessly at the door, fiddling with his phone. Finally, with the help of an elderly woman behind him, he managed to pay the fare. The only price he paid was being scolded by those old ladies all the way there. After they got off the bus, he collapsed onto his seat, exhausted. Seeing how embarrassed he looked, I couldn't help but laugh, but he didn't say a word. When we arrived, I got off the bus, and Harry followed behind me, holding his phone. Is this it? But the high-end residential area is still a few kilometers away. Are we going to walk there? I turned my head and finally spoke to him. Mr. Harry, do you think this is hard? It's already good. There's still the bus to take. In the past 6 years, I've experienced much harder things than this. Shut up now and walk properly, or you'll end up falling flat on your face. Harry slipped and fell many times on the snowy street before finally reaching the door of the house. Inside lived an elderly couple, whose faces bore a striking resemblance to Flora. Upon seeing Harry, they hurriedly took his hands and looked at him with satisfaction, as if he were the son-in-law they had seen in the photos their daughter had shown them. But Harry's furrowed brow left them at a loss for words. Excuse me, Mr. Harry, is something wrong with Flora? After a brief conversation, the elderly couple looked at each other. I didn't listen to their conversation, but just looked around the house that Harry said belonged to me. No matter how you look at it, this house is definitely a top choice. Located in the heart of the city, it still exudes a sense of tranquility, and even the walls are flawlessly finished. Many parts of the house are vacant, and apart from the master bedroom, there are no signs of life. It is clear that although Flora stole this place for her parents to live in their old age, she may never have set foot here. It is difficult to determine whether this behavior is filial or unfilial. Looking at this expensive house, painful memories from the past few years began to flood back. When I left him, Lily and I were penniless, and the days we spent at the shelter were the most difficult times of my life. On the second day at the shelter, I entrusted Lily to the staff there and ran away on my own. I borrowed some money, took a long bus ride, and went to an old, dilapidated building. That was where Harry and I used to watch the stars together. Without him knowing, I placed the last gift my parents gave me here. That was the happiest birthday of my life. They gave me a gemstone brooch. I sold my last memento for a very low price and used the money to rescue Lily from the shelter. In the days that followed, I looked for work everywhere, but how many people would be willing to hire someone with a few-month-old child to come to work with them, especially someone with no work experience? During that period, I experienced hardships that I had never encountered before. I had no choice but to force myself to learn to live frugally, repeatedly asking others to look after Lily while I worked every spare second at odd jobs to earn a little money. The numbers that I never cared about before have now become demons that crush me time and time again. I have no one to rely on, only the words I wrote in my spare time, which I edit over and over again and submit, hoping for a better result. Perhaps heaven took pity on my suffering, and I finally found this path, which allows me to take care of Lily at home while earning enough to support us. I will always hate this suffering that I did not deserve, but I hate myself even more, the ignorant and foolish person who was so blinded by love that I could not see anything else. A wave of dizziness swept over me, and I staggered a few steps before finally losing my balance. But just as I collapsed, 2 cries rang out. Miss, are you all right? Old man, quickly get some sugar and hot water, hurry. When I woke up, the elderly couple and Harry were sitting beside me, and a red notebook appeared next to me. Seeing that I had woken up, the elderly couple exchanged glances, sighed, and pushed the notebook toward me. Young lady, Mr. Harry has already explained everything to us. When Flora told us to stay here, she said it was a gift from Mr. Harry. We saw the property deed with our names on it, so we didn't suspect anything, but now you've suffered so much because of us. This house is yours. We'll live our lives with a clear conscience, and we won't take advantage of you when we're old. As he said this, Flora's father took out his phone and tried to dial one of the numbers, but no matter how many times he tried, he couldn't get through. He could only sigh and give up. Just as Flora's father was about to say something, the sound of the door opening came from the hallway. Before Flora had even appeared, the sound reached our ears first. Hey, you guys, don't believe those 2 good-for-nothings. This house is mine, and no one can take it away from me. Is that so? Flora, that's a very absolute statement. Her father stood up in a rage and forcefully pulled Flora in front of us. This is how we raised you. You must always rely on yourself and never cheat or deceive others. Do you understand? Look at what you've done. You even stole someone else's child support. Are you human? How could we raise a daughter like you? But even so, Flora sneered as she scanned the crowd, finally fixing her gaze on the property deed beside me. I took it, but so what? I got it back with my own skills. Do you want to take it away? Flora's gaze fell on us. A bankrupt piece of trash, a lowly woman kicked out of her home, and 2 old fools who can only rely on me to survive. Now, all I have to do is flick my finger, and I can crush all of you to death. As she spoke, she walked over to me, took the property deed from my side, flipped through it casually, and then slammed it back in front of me. Look clearly. It says my name here. Without my consent, what right do you have to take these things? As she spoke, she glanced up and down at Harry, who was standing nearby with his head down, not saying a word. Just based on that, Harry, the president who has already squandered his entire family fortune? Harry looked up and met her gaze, his tone flat. Flora, so this is who you really are? All these years, I gave up jewels, but what I fell in love with was trash. Look at the message. This game should be over now. The sound of a message notification came from her phone. Flora found herself back in the group chat that had kicked her out not long ago. Flora, you're such a natural actress, but this time you lost completely. It looks like we'll have to sell the things we prepared for Harry at a low price. After all, we all find these dirty things disgusting. As for the things that supposedly belong to you, we have plenty of time to get them back from you one by one. One last thing, we've had someone thoroughly investigate everything you've done since you joined the company. You know best what you've done. The rest, you can reflect on in prison. Flora's face quickly turned pale. She grabbed her bag and tried to leave, but Harry was quicker and blocked the doorway. She stood in front of Harry, staring at him, gradually beginning to laugh out loud, even bending over with laughter. After calming down, she sat back down on the sofa, then quickly stood up again and looked around carefully. Flora was smart. With the information now available to her, she could easily piece together her future. Harry, you win, you lose. This time, I lost. When Flora was taken away, she passed by Harry and laughed softly a few times. What a pity, President Harry. You lost too. In this game, there are no winners. After leaving there, Harry's parents quickly learned what had happened during that time. They rushed back from their hometown with Lily, And I only saw them once before moving into that house with Lily. Harry's gifts arrived here like a flood, and I accepted them all. He came once, as if he wanted to say something, but when he saw me, he didn't say a word. On Lily's birthday, her parents appeared before us with Harry. Daisy, I know it's impossible for you two to be together, but Lily is still your daughter, and she deserves the best. This is the company's share transfer document. The shares listed here are the ones we originally gave you, plus the 70% that Harry currently holds. Once you sign this, all these shares will be transferred to Lily's name. What he originally promised you, we added a little more and put it in the foundation. You and Lily will receive a monthly payment, and everything else is up to Lily. After reading it carefully, I signed my name. Harry looked at me but said nothing. He knew that even if he said something, it would only make the atmosphere uncomfortable and serve no other purpose. As they left, I watched Harry's back and finally spoke to him for the first time. Harry, if Flora had been just a little bit smarter, none of this would have happened, right? He stood there silently for a moment, then turned his head back and quickly looked away again, wiping the corner of his eye with his sleeve. Yes, Flora was right. This game is a losing one. After returning to the old house, Harry sat in his room for a long time, then stood up and paced back and forth. Finally, his footsteps stopped at a room that had not been opened for a long time. That was Daisy's room back then. He opened the door, and everything seemed unchanged, as if all the furnishings had been frozen in time when Daisy loved him most. He sat at his desk for a while, then took a diary from the bottom shelf of the bookcase beside him. He knew that Daisy's diary had always been kept there, a secret that Daisy had only told him. Flipping through the diary, there were many photos, most of which were related to him. They were memories of the time they spent together without any scheming or intrigue. At the end of the diary, he saw a sentence. Harry, you little rascal, you finally stole a peek at my diary. You've read this far, so just answer me one question. When you read this, did you still like Daisy? We must have been very happy together, right? In a daze, he seemed to see 18-year-old Daisy standing beside him, smiling sweetly at him. Her hair was messy, tied into a ponytail that he had hastily made for her back then. A series of crisp sounds echoed through the empty room. The girl with the ponytail seemed to curve her lips into a smile. I see. I understand.